Hello everyone, welcome to the WISE-PaaS Certified Developer Program Level 3. I'm Dave Lee. Today we'll be talking about an advanced topic of this series, which is how to develop your own plugin for the WISE-PaaS dashboard. First, we will guide you through the installation process of all the tools that you need to get your development environment ready. Next, we will take a look into the file directories of the dashboard. And then in the plugin directory, there are some important files that we want to focus. Before we dive into the coding section, we will talk about the starting process of the plugin development, including the installation of the simple JSON data source plugin, and also setting up a dedicated CSV server as our data source. After that, we will start to modify the source code of the plugin step by step. And finally, we will upload our plugin to the dashboard on the WISE-PaaS to verify our new feature. Okay. You can build your plugin on Windows or Linux, and you have to install the Visual Studio Code. And that's also what we're going to use during the course. And you're gonna need to install Node.js with version 8 or above. And we're gonna be using the Grafana source code with version 5.4.3. And we need to install the Grunt to do the housekeeping stuff for our project. Okay, after installing the Node.js, just type in the Node-V in your terminal to make sure that you have installed the Node environment properly. Once you install the Node.js, you're gonna have the npm install already. And we're going to download the Grafana source code from the Grafana website, official website. And okay, just go ahead and copy this. And right now I'm already in this page where you can download the Grafana source code. It has provided all versions for different platforms, like in Linux and Windows, Mac. And you have different ways to install the Grafana source code. I'm using Mac to develop our plugin right now, but I will not use this brew command here. Instead, I'm gonna use the zip file, which you can find in the Linux category here. And when you scroll down, you can find the standalone Linux binaries. Just click the link here, or you can type your command in your terminal, this wget command. But I'm in Mac right now. It doesn't come with the wget utility installed by default, but you can also still click the link and it will download directly. So it's a zip file. Just download, choose a location and then click save. Let's check our folder here. It's already downloaded. And back to our terminal. I'm also in this folder, and you can type in the command here. Just copy the whole command to unzip the file. Okay, and now you have the folder, a folder called Grafana 5.4.3. And back to the Finder, you're gonna see it here right now. Okay, and when you click in, you're gonna see the file structure here. All right. And we also need to install the Grafana pie chart panel plugin, because plugins may be the panel or the data source or backend applications in our dashboard. So there are different types of plugins, but today we're gonna be working with the panel plugin. So here you can copy this command and just install it to the installation folder of your Grafana or source code folder in your Grafana. But there is another way. There is always another way to download it. Copy the link here. And actually, I will open this page. All right. So it provides two ways to install this panel plugin. You can go ahead and copy this command here. It's basically using the Grafana CLI command, which comes with your Grafana source code. It will be installed in your environment variable if you install the Grafana with Homebrew, okay? Because right now in my Finder here, it should be inside this binary folder. So you have this Grafana CLI. So you can go into this directory and type this command. But if you install your Grafana with Homebrew, then the path for this command, this binary should be already in your environment path. Okay, so you can type the Grafana CLI anywhere in your terminal in that case. But here, because I'm downloading this Grafana source code this way, okay, so I need to go into this folder and then type this command in my terminal to download the plugin. But here, back to our web page, we can also download the zip file manually and make sure you choose the right version. It's 1.3.0. Okay, now let's click the link here and then save. Okay, it should be fast. And back to the Finder. Go up. Now we have this, the source code of the PyChart panel plugin. Okay, and we're gonna see it in a little bit. But before that, let's just open our Grafana server so you can see it in the browser. Okay, so right now in my terminal, I'm already in this demo Grafana directory. Let me go into the Grafana source code directory. And you need to go into the binary folder and just run Grafana server. And it's running. So you need to go to the local host 3000 port to browse into your dashboard. So now let's open our browser and then type in localhost port 3000. And the default username and password to log in the Grafana will be admin and also admin. And it's gonna ask you to change your password, but you can skip it for now. Now we're inside this Grafana and we're running it in our local machine. Okay, so here let's create a dashboard. And now you can see that there is no pie chart panel that we can choose. Okay, so how do we install the pie chart manually? Back to Finder. Now we have this zip file here. Just double click it to unzip it. And we have this folder. And just rename it and grab this whole folder into the data folder under Grafana folder. And also inside the data folder, you're gonna see a plugins folder. Now there is no manually installed plugin here. So now let's grab this whole folder into this directory. Okay, so right now here you can see that this is the Grafana folder, and this is data folder, and plugins folder, and then the plugin itself. Okay, so we have finished the installation for the plugin. Now, how do we make it take effect? You need, before you refresh the dashboard, you need to start the server, okay, and then run this server again. So it's just to restart the Grafana server and back to the browser, refresh this page. And now you see that the pie chart is already in here in the list, so you can choose it. Okay, and you're gonna see a default display. But for now, let me go to the data source because we're gonna use some data from our CSV server. So let's add a data source here. After you install the Grafana source and also the pie chart panel source, you need to run the npm install for the Grunt CLI. And you're gonna install it globally, okay? So here, let me just go npm, make sure you have this npm installed, and then install it globally from CLI. Okay, and because I already installed it before, so it's just updated. All right, so then we're done with our installation of the development environment. And here is the file directory structure of the dashboard source code. We have the bin folder, com folder, data folder, public folder, scripts folder, and vendor folder. In the bin folder, you're gonna see the binary files for running the Grafana utilities. Like you can run the Grafana server, and also you can use the Grafana CLI binary to install plugins. And in the com folder, you have the configuration files, such as default.ini. And in data folder, you have the plugins folder, logs folder, and session folder. And most of the time, we're gonna be working with the plugins folder, where we install and modify our plugin source code. And in the public folder, it basically has all the core features or core functions of the dashboard. And the scripts folder contains all the build scripts to build the entire project for the Grafana source code. And in the vendor folder, we have the third-party tools. It's gonna be located in this folder. And inside the plugin folders or plugin directory structure, basically we have the distribution folder, which is called dist. And you're gonna run your grunt, compile your source code, and all the compiled code will be copied into this folder. And of course, the SRC, which is the source code folder, will contain all the source code. And we're gonna be working inside this folder. And you have a bunch of files like plugin.json. It contains all the basic information about the plugin, and also the CSS file and the image files. And partials folder has the templates. And it's gonna be rendered as the front end user interface, okay? And grunt files, gruntfile.js, you don't want to change the name because it's the default name to run the grunt routine. So when you run your grunt command in the terminal, it's gonna look for this file and then retrieve all the information it requires to run all the jobs. And in the package.json, you have all the dependencies described in this file. And also we have the README, it's basically a markdown file. And we're gonna compile and configure our plugin. So we have done the first step, which is the copy the whole plugin source code into the data / plugins directory. And it's running properly right now, just what we saw. And here I'm gonna use another way to install the plugin. And this time it's gonna be the data source, okay? So like what we mentioned, plugins come with different types like panel, data source, or backend application. But right now we're gonna be working on the simple JSON data source. So it's a data source plugin, and we're gonna use the Grafana CLI to install this plugin. We do this on purpose so you have tried both ways to install your plugins. Okay, first we download the zip file, and the second we use the Grafana CLI. But it's just different types of plugins. And then we configure our data source. And here is the URL to our CSV server. It provides some mock data, so you can use it to verify your plugin. And then after you download the plugin, you need to run npm install to install all dependencies in your project or your source code folder. And then after you do some modification for your source code, you're gonna run the grunt command to run all the housekeeping jobs, like compiling your source code and then moving all the compiled files to the distribution folder. And because we didn't install our Grafana source code with homebrew command, which is going to install all the Grafana program into your system folder. Instead, we manually download the zip file and unzip it to some location in our computer. So you need to go into the binary folder and then run the Grafana server to start a server. Okay, and also the plugin directory is gonna be inside this data directory. And this is how you set up the data source, which I'm gonna show you in a minute. And before you start to develop your plugin, you need to run npm install to install all the dependencies that is described in your package.json file. And also run the grunt command after you finish your modification of the source code, and then restart the Grafana server. Now let's try to install our data source plugin by the Grafana CLI. So copy this whole command here back to the terminal. And because I'm assuming that I didn't install the Grafana using Homebrew, I'm going to the binary folder. And because here it has a Grafana CLI, okay, so you can run the command directly right here. Let me copy this whole command here to install our simple JSON data source plugin. Okay, like that. Okay, then it's done. So back to the Finder, you're gonna see here there's a new plugin installed besides this pie chart panel we installed a while ago. Okay, so right now we have the simple JSON data source because they are both plugins, so they're gonna be located in this data and then plugins directory. All right, and let's set up our CSV server. Let me just copy this CSV server URL. And because we already installed something new in our Grafana source folder, so we need to stop the server and then run the server again. And then back to our web page or our browser, refresh the page. And then when you click add data source, you're gonna see the new plugin, which is simple JSON that we just installed. Click it, and I'm gonna name it CSV server. And then paste in the URL in the slide. Okay, and then just leave everything else by default. Okay, and click save and test. Okay, now it's working. All right, we're not using the with credentials because we're running this data source locally. But after you finish all your development of the plugin and then upload your plugin onto the WISE-PaaS dashboard, you're gonna check this with credentials because it's gonna run in our WISE-PaaS system. You're gonna need some token to have the permission to use our Grafana functions. Okay, back to our dashboard. Now let's add a new panel. Click the pie chart plugin or panel here, and then click the title. In the drop-down menu, click Edit, and then choose the CSV server data source that we just set up, and then choose the first one, and then add another query, choose the second one. So you can see that it has two numbers or values here. And then in the options tab here, just move this legend to the right side. Okay, so you can enlarge this whole graph. But we're gonna change the type to donut. Okay, so you have a donut shape look type of display. And then what we're gonna do is to add another option here under this general section here. Okay, it's gonna call show value, and then it's gonna show the first value, which is 7 here in the middle. Okay, and we're also gonna provide you a Notion page here. It's gonna be included in our email, and when you go into this Notion page, you can see the table of content, and it has an SRP frame, which is covered in another lecture. And in this lecture we're talking about the plugin development. So just click this title here, and it will bring you to the section. And this is the final result. So at the end of this development, you're gonna have a new feature called show value. It's gonna be a switch, like a checkbox here under this general session. But right now it doesn't have this option here because it's brand new. And then when you check this option, it's gonna show the first value in the center of this donut display. Okay. Now everything is all set. Now we can start to modify some source code. Now I'm back to my terminal here. I'm inside this Grafana source folder, and then go into the data directory, and then the plugin directory. Okay, and we're gonna be dealing with this Grafana pie chart. Okay, and let's open it with the Visual Studio Code. And you might have noticed that we haven't run any npm install command, but we can still see that this pie chart is working in our dashboard. Why is that? Because it has already the distribution folder when it comes with the zip file. Okay, when we install it, it already has all these files compiled in this distribution folder or dist folder. So you don't really need to run any npm install command before it can work. And also when we're working with the development, when we're modifying our code, maybe we are not going to change any parts that are related to the dependencies. So maybe we don't even need to run npm install also. But it's just the best practice. When you download any new project into your local machine, you're gonna have to run your npm install. Okay, that's just the best practice. Okay, so right now I have opened my project with in my Visual Studio Code, and back to the terminal. Like what we mentioned, let's run npm install. And it's gonna grab this information in this package.json. It's gonna install all these dependencies into your local project. Oh, once it's done, you're gonna see a folder called node modules created. Okay, and then let's just run grunt, and it's gonna grab the information in this Grunt file.js. Okay, it's basically copying, compiling all the source code and then copy the results into the dist folder. So let me just show you how it works. Let's just delete all this distribution folder. Okay, so now it's gone. There's no dist folder in our project. And then I run the Grunt again. You see it's created. Okay, it's back. Okay, so it's basically doing some housekeeping jobs for you. Okay, and then it smooths all this development process. Okay, so back to our slide. Take a look at this module.js. Okay, so here you're gonna import your module or your control. We say it's control if you're familiar with the Angular framework. Okay, basically you are working with your plugin as a control in the Angular framework. Okay, so you're gonna import your control into this module.js as this pie chart control component, and then you're gonna export it as panel control. Okay, so this is a rule that you need to follow. Okay, but right now it's already done for you because it's a working plugin. Okay, so in the module.js, you see that it imports from your control, which has all this business logic for your plugin, and then you export this pie chart control as panel control. Okay, so this is how Grafana source recognize your panel plugin. And I already have my code snippet here. I'm gonna modify these parts one by one. And also you can find all this information, all these code snippets in your in our Notion page here. When you scroll down, it guides you through all the steps. And after you finish all the steps, you're gonna have your new plugin working with your new feature. Okay. So right now, the first step is to edit the template for the panel editor. So what is a template? It's basically the code for rendering the front end. Okay, so basically we're working, when you open the edit panel here, what we can change here is under this option tab. Okay, so it has the general section, legend section, and the combine section. And we're gonna add one more options here under this general section. So back to our project, let's find this editor.html. So you can see that this is the general section, and this is the legend section. Okay, and this is the combine section. So basically this file represents this option page here. Okay, this is what we can change. All right, so right now let's add some code here. Back to our code snippet. I'm gonna add this code into this file. So because I'm gonna add this option right after this divider width field. So let's find this divider width. Okay, this divider width field, and then paste in. Okay, so now it's done. Okay, so after this step, you should be able to see this option created in the front end. So right now, let's do the Grunt to recompile the project. And now the new files should be already in the distribution folder, but you're gonna have to restart your server. All right, now back to the browser. Let's just refresh this page. and then choose pie chart again. Let me just give you a name. We say new pie chart. Okay. And then let's choose our CSV server as our data source. And then add some queries here. And then change the option. Okay, you're gonna move the legend to the right side and then change the type to donut. So, but you can notice that now there is a new option here called show value, and it's a checkbox, but it doesn't have any function right now because we haven't added any logic for it, right? But we already changed the template, so it has been rendered in the front end. Okay, now let's save it. Okay, back to our code snippet. The next step is to add some logic for that value. Actually, it's getting this the value of this show variable. If it's true, we're gonna add some tag into these HTML. Okay, so let's copy it and go to this rendering.js because it's where it renders the front end. So let's go to the rendering.js. Scroll down, and right before the place, the place where it inserts the HTML document to the DOM, let's add some space here and then paste in. Okay, so when the user checks the box, and this value is gonna be true, and then it's gonna add this code into the canvas. Okay, and then this canvas is gonna be inserted to the DOM. This HTML text here is basically showing, it's a div tag, and it's showing the first value, like the first queries here. Okay. And the first query will be 7. Okay, so you are gonna have to see this number in the middle. Okay. But right now we haven't done any compilation yet. And the next thing we're going to do is to set a default value for the show value variable. Whenever you add a new variable to your code, you're going to set a default value for it. And we do it by add this new property into this panel defaults object. Okay, it's going to be in your control file. So let's go to the control. Let me just save this file for now. And then let's go to control. It's going to have this variable called panel defaults. It's an object. So let's add a new value or new property called show value. And the default value will be false. Okay. And it's going to run this lodash.defaults to get all this information from this object. Okay. From this object. All right, and if you don't set this default, it's gonna get the options that is set by the user. Okay, so when the user does something for this value, it's gonna use the value that the user set. Okay, but if the user doesn't touch it, then it's gonna use the default value, which is false. Okay, now next thing we're gonna do is to modify the CSS. And before that, just take a look what it looks like right now. Okay, let's just leave this style for a moment. Okay, back to our terminal. We need to make sure that we save everything. Back to the terminal. Let's run Grunt again. and then restart the server. And then back to our dashboard. Refresh the whole page. Okay, now go to this edit editor and check the show value. You see something happened. Okay, so you see that the 7 is displayed, but it's not in the middle. Why is that? Because we add the logic. Remember, we added the logic to grab the first value and then put it inside some div tag, and then put the HTML code into the canvas, right? So this is our canvas. And now we have this div right here, but we haven't set up any style for it. So right now it's just the default style, which is on the top left corner. Okay, but we want it to be located in the center. Okay, so right now let's set some CSS style for it. Back to our snippet. In the module.js, it's importing the load plugin CSS from the SDK. And with this component or method, you can specify the dark and the light themes for your Grafana. Okay, and it's basically done with this pie chart dark CSS and pie chart light CSS. Let's take a look in the module.js. Okay, this component is loaded, and it's basically a method that you can use, okay, to load the information from the CSS files. All right, and after you finish this part, and it's gonna work here in the preference, the configuration preference of your dashboard. You can see that this is the theme that you can choose. Now it has the dark and the light, okay? But you can also add more if you want. You can add another theme here, maybe like medium, right? And then it's gonna show here. Okay, now let's change something with the CSS. Back to the snippets. Now let's start from the dark theme. Now let's copy the whole the code snippet here, and then go to the CSS file and open the dark theme CSS file. Go to the end of the file and then paste in, and then save. Okay, and why does it work? Because you see that it's controlling this pie chart value class. All right, and then in the rendering, we added a div tag here, and then we assign a class called pie chart value. So that's how they are related. And then let's do the light thing. Copy the whole thing here. Back to this project. Open the light CSS, and then append the whole code at the end, and then save. Okay, so right now we have defined the style for this class. Okay, now let's do the Grunt again. And then restart the server. And then back to the browser. Open our dashboard again, and we need to refresh. Okay. Okay, now you see that it's working. Okay, so it's basically grabbing the first value, which is 7, and then put it in the center of this canvas or this graph. Okay, so now it's working. And before we end this section, let's review the process. First, we took a look at this module.js. And it's basically import some components from the SDK and also the control you are developing. And it's also loading some plugin CSS files. And you need to export your control as this panel control right here. And the HTML, what you need to notice is that it's the best practice to use the built-in class provided by the Grafana, like width dash a number or max width some number here. For example, we have this width dash 8, right? And then it's just the best practice to use the built-in classes from Grafana. And this is the themes that we're talking about. And here are the events. Okay, so when you change something, it's gonna invoke the render event, and it's gonna call the onRender function, and it's basically running the render.js component behind the scene. And it also has the init edit mode event when you add the edit panel tab page, okay? And it also has the data receive event when the data required for accessing drawings is triggered when the dashboard refreshes the data. And we have the data snapshot load, and it's an event trigger in snapshot mode to load data. And we also have the data error event. It's used to handle errors when the dashboard is refreshed. And the panel that you add in your dashboard is gonna be saved into this JSON model here. You can find it here, back to our dashboard in the settings, and go to this JSON model here. You can see that we have panels here. So it's an array, and the first one is this one, and it's using the CSV server as the data source. And this is the queries. Okay, so basically these are the information for your panel. Okay, so about the JSON model, the plugin is rendered through the user configuration change panel, like here. And the configured fields are recorded in JSON and saved in the database. Okay, so we have all this information saved in our database. And you can view this JSON through the dashboard settings menu. And the panel information exists in the panels array here. Okay, it's an array. The configuration information and initialized values are defined during the plugin development, like we saw when we are working with the panel defaults object. And the user configure information such as custom constants and data source queries is not recorded and cannot be stored. So this is rule that we need to follow. We don't want to store any data related information in this JSON model because it's gonna be growing more and more, and it's gonna dragging down the performance of the dashboard. Okay, so just keep in mind. And this is how we set the default values for the options. And we need to add the code snippets into these files, the control and the template. And another place in the rendering JS, okay, is taking this show value and then check its value to see if the user requires to add the value into the graph. And also these are the style sheet for the dark and light themes. Now that we have our plugin working in our local machine, in our local Grafana, we're gonna have to upload the plugin to our WISE-PaaS dashboard to see if it's also working there. Okay, so now let's go to the dashboard on the WISE-PaaS. This is local because it's showing local 3000 here, but I'm gonna go to the dashboard on the WISE-PaaS. Now we're working in the ADV training org and inside the level 3 space, okay? And now I'm in my own org in the dashboard. And before I upload, I need to create a new data source like this, like what we have done locally. But the difference is you're gonna have to choose the proxy for access field. And then you need to check with credentials, because on the WISE-PaaS, you need to have the credential to access the data. And then go to the configuration and plugins. Here, we don't have any plugins yet. And before we upload the plugin, we need to zip our project. Go to the Finder, and this is our project right here in our local directory. And what we need to do is just to zip the dist folder. So I'm gonna create a folder called Grafana pie chart panel new. And one thing that you need to know before you upload the plugin is that we don't want to duplicate ID for the plugin. So right now, what is the ID for the plugin? Back to our project. In the plugin.json here, you see there is a default ID called Grafana pie chart panel. And because on the WISE-PaaS, the dashboard already has a pie chart panel. Let me show you. Okay, when you create a dashboard, when you scroll down, select the pie chart panel, you see it's already there. And the ID is also Grafana pie chart panel. So you're gonna have a conflict if you don't, if you upload your plugin with the same ID. So here I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna add new here at the end. And I'm gonna also change the name for the panel. I'm gonna call it new pie chart. So you're gonna see new pie chart here because the name is gonna be displayed here in the list. Okay, and then save it. And one important thing is that when you upload your plugin, the file or the zip name has to be the same as your ID. So here I'm working with, that's why I created this folder as Grafana pie chart panel new. It has to be the same as your ID. What's gonna happen if you change the folder? It's going to miss the C style sheets that you modified. So the style sheets are not gonna work, okay? And how do we change that? How do we fix it? Let's find the string for Grafana pie chart panel here in our source folder. Right click here, and then find in folder, and then paste in, hit enter. So these are the places that are found to have this string. Okay, the first place is in this module.js. It's actually grab this CSS file from the CSS folder under Grafana pie chart panel. All right, and because right now you're using this new file name or new directory name, so you need to rename it. Okay, with the real situation. Save. And another place here, this is to grab this template. Okay, it's also located in this directory, which is not true for right now because we have been changed the directory name. Okay, so but this folder right now is empty. Okay, I'm gonna just copy this folder into this new directory. Okay, that's it. Okay, so you're gonna have to change the ID to distinguish from the ID on the WISE-PaaS dashboard, and you're gonna change the name, and also you're gonna change the file path for your editor template, and also for the CSS files. Okay, so okay, we're done here. And because we have made some modifications, so of course we need to run the Grunt again. So all the compile files will be copied into this folder. All right, and then go to the Finder, and we're gonna copy. This is under the source directory. Okay, under the data plugins directory, and I'm gonna copy only the dist folder into the new folder here. Okay, so just grab it like that, and then you're gonna have to zip this folder. Okay, so I'm gonna compress it. So right now we have the zip folder. Now I'm already in the dashboard on the WISE-PaaS. So you can see here, the URL is not localhost anymore. It's ADB training level 3 .wisepaas.io. And then you need to browse the zip file that we just compressed to upload. Okay. It's the Grafana new pie chart panel new.zip. Open, and then click upload. And it's showing you some error here. It says some plugins are not registered. Please restart dashboard on the management portal. And it's directing you to the management portal. Okay, so just click the link here to open the management portal. Our program is located under the ADB training org, and also the level 3 space. Okay, right now there are not many apps yet here, and we're seeing the dashboard application here. And just click the switch button here to stop the application. So it has stopped it. And then starting again. Right now it's starting, okay, because the state is yellow here. And just wait for a while until it finishes starting. Now it's green. That means it completes the startup. And then back to the dashboard. Let's refresh the page. And you see the new pie chart, the error message is gone, okay? And is register here is showing yes. It means that we can start using this plugin. Now let's go to create a new dashboard, and let's find the pie chart panel. So you can see that there's a new one called new pie chart. Let's choose it. And in the editor, let's choose the CSV server as our data source. So it's basically the same thing that we did in locally. Add another new query. Okay, so you see the two numbers are shown here, and in the options, okay, there is a new function option here. It's called show value. Okay, so right now it's working. And then we move the legend to the side, and then we change the type to donut and check the show value. It's showing 7. So it works the same way as what we saw in our local computer. Okay, so it's working. And let's save the dashboard. And there you have it. Before we finish this session, let's talk about the plugin management rules. And speaking of our plugin sources, our current plugins in WISE-PaaS dashboard are from 2 sources. One is the Grafana community, and the other is those developed by the Advantech team. These plugins deployed with the dashboard by default are all from the community or those developed in-house. So the first rule is the plugins deployed by default cannot be overwritten. The default plugins are placed in the data plugins directory of the dashboard app. The plugins are downloaded from the plugin library maintained by our Advantech dashboard team. And we will continue to improve the functionalities or add new plugins so our user can use these plugins and they are not to be overwritten. And also the plugin conflicts will be checked during the plugin upload. And another rule is the uploaded plugins are persistent. Plugins uploaded by the user will be backed up to our database. If a new version of dashboard is deployed, the connected database will remain the same. So those previously uploaded plugins will be synchronized from the database. And you can submit your own plugins that you develop to be part of our dashboard plugin, and we welcome you to contribute to our dashboard functionalities. And this is another document which talks about the other rules for developing and submitting your plugins to our WISE-PaaS dashboard. There is a rule we just saw, which is the ID name should be unique in the WISE-PaaS dashboard. So you need to change your ID name. And another rule is you need to use the same directory name as your ID. Okay, so all this information will be in this slide, and we're going to be offering this slide to you with the previous one we just checked. Okay, so this concludes this lecture. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, just feel free to email us or leave your comments, and we'll be glad to help you. Thank you. Bye-bye.